Hey everyone, we're going to be making the Wavy hairstyle from Animal Crossing New Horizons. This hairstyle will also be available for download from our Patreon, link in the description. Alright, on with the show! To start with, let's make sure your cursor is set to world origin with Shift S. We're going to try to get the base shape of this hair as quickly and easily as possible. So hit Shift A, add a cube. Let's name this cube something creative, like hair. Go into side view with numpad 3 and move this cube up so that the origin is in the center of the head. Now let's add a subdivision modifier. Make sure you're selected on the modifier tab, which looks like a little wrench. And change the levels viewport up to 2. I like to turn off optimal display so I can see all the edges. Tab into edit mode, select all with A, and scale down with S. If you hold shift while scaling, grabbing, or rotating, you can make more exact edits, just in case you ever need to be more precise. Let's adjust this cube so that it more closely resembles the base shape of our hair. Switch to face select and select this top face. To make things easier to see, switch to solid view. Scale down this face with S. Switch to edge select, select this top front edge. Grab and move it forward on the Y axis. This is already pretty good, but we're going to need more geometry to continue shaping the hair. So make sure you're in object mode and let's apply our subdivision modifier. Tab back into edit mode and switch into wireframe. Change over to face select and hit C to activate circle select. You can adjust the circle selection size by scrolling your mouse wheel. Circle select these faces. The reason we're in wireframe view is so that we can select through our mesh and get the faces on the other side as well. Hit X to bring up the delete menu and choose faces. Go back into solid view to admire your shape. Since this hairstyle is going to be symmetrical, we should make use of a mirror modifier. That way we only have to shape one side of the hair. Head back into wireframe view, hit numpad 1 to go into front view, use circle select again and select one half of the hair. Hit X and delete the faces. In the modifier tab, add a mirror modifier. I'm gonna check it out in solid view, then switch to vertex select and back to wireframe view. So, subdivision modifier editing is really helpful for creating smooth shapes, but adds extra geometry. Since we've applied our subdivision modifier, and we're not quite ready for too much more geometry, we want another way to smoothly adjust things, and proportional editing does just that. Let's hit O to turn on proportional editing. There's a few options, but we'll just use smooth for now. Select this upper back vertex, hit G and move this vertex out from the head a bit. You can change the area of effect of proportional editing by scrolling your mouse wheel. Use proportional to flatten the top of the hair a tiny bit. So we've got our hair to a good point. Let's add another subdivision modifier and enable clipping on our mirror modifier. Clipping will keep our vertices from moving away from or crossing over the mirror line. This is a good idea to have on in most cases. I want to have the bottom edge of the hair taper into a circle. The easiest way that I can think to do this is to use a guide object. So add a circle with Shift A. In this menu, change the vertex count to 16, and then position the circle in edit mode. Turn off proportional editing and scale the circle down to roughly match the diameter of the hair. I kinda had a recording mishap here, but turn on snapping by hitting Shift Tab or by clicking this magnet icon. Then change the snapping mode to vertex and make sure project onto self is enabled. Now select and snap all these lower hair vertices onto the closest circle vertex. Hold Alt and click an edge on this circle to loop select it, and delete it with X. I find that it helps to model with the body's visibility turned off, but just make sure to check what it looks like with the body from time to time. Alright, let's turn snapping off and start to shape the hair by hand. I'm going to start with this front contour. When you see a colored axis line, that means I'm locking my edits to an axis. You can also see the exact edits that I'm making in this upper corner. Sometimes sliding a vertex along an edge is easier than positioning it by hand. In these situations, hit GG to edge slide. Now my goal is to give the hair a bit of volume. If you need more geometry, a quick way to add some is with edge loops. Hit Ctrl R and add an edge loop in here. Now we can start to shape the hair more precisely near the middle. To help me position the rest of my hair's geometry, I'm going to temporarily move some of the middle edge into the head to exaggerate the crease. Now I kinda want to puff up the hair a little. I'm going to focus on the mirror line first. I find that picturing how the object looks in cross sections helps me get the overall shape that I'm going for. It might help you to think about it that way, or you might have other ways that make sense to you. Don't forget about proportional editing while you're shaping things. Keep an eye on your edge lines. You want to try to keep things flowing as smoothly as possible in every direction whenever you can, especially if you want your shape to appear smooth in that area. Also, the more evenly spaced your edges are, the less issues you'll run into. When edges start getting close together, your mesh can easily start to look wrinkly, which you may or may not want in certain situations, but for this hair, try to keep it smooth. Select all with A and shade smooth in the face menu. I want to start making the hair look like it has separate, I don't know what to call them, lobes I guess? Kinda like defined raised areas on each side of the middle crease. Don't worry about the clipping here, we'll go back and fix that later. I want to make a loop of faces around the center crease in the hair, which is going to be these first 3 center edges. So select the 4th center face, hit X, and choose to delete only faces. Add an edge loop here with Ctrl R, go back into vertex select. Shift select all these vertices and fill in this face. It's currently an N-gon since there's more than 4 vertices, but we can fix this pretty easily. Select these 2 vertices, bring up the search menu with space, F3 or whatever keybind you have it set to, and search for subdivide. An extra vertex was added at the center point when we did this. Select these 2 vertices in this order, hit M, and choose at last. Hit K to bring up the knife tool, and cut an edge in here. Now everything is quads again. Quads in general are easier to work with when editing your mesh, but there are a lot of situations where tris and n-gons are completely fine as well. We've got a bunch more geometry to work with now, so might as well use it to shape the hair even more. Trying to decide how to shape your object is significantly easier the more reference that you have. I recommend taking a lot of pictures in-game or trying to find them on the internet. Just tons of reference. Let's add the center part to the hair, so switch to Edge Select. Select these 2 edges, hit Ctrl E and choose Mark Sharp. Then in the Modifier tab, add an Edge Split modifier. Disable Edge Angle so it only affects the edges we have marked as sharp. And this is how the hair is looking now. Looks good. Now we want to work on the front of the hair a bit, but we're lacking geometry. Easy fix, Ctrl R to add an edge loop. I'm going to do something kinda weird. I want to inflate and deflate parts of my mesh. To do this, I'm going to need to scale in relation to the object origin. So I'm going to tab into object mode and set my cursor to selection with Shift S. Tab back into edit mode, switch back to vertex select, select a few vertices, and switch the pivot point to 3D cursor. Now when I scale, everything will scale out from the object origin, so each vertex will kind of smoothly position itself. To get rid of some of the clipping, I'm going to scale out from the center edge a bit. We're going to be pretty heavily adjusting this object, so there's no need to be too concerned with the exact placements. If you look at some of the reference, we need to start planning out where we're going to place the hair pieces that bump out. This edge is roughly where the back hair bump connects to the head. Even with all the reference, it's hard to tell exactly where everything lines up. This is the edge of the second hairpiece and the center of the third. Again, exact positioning not necessary, just get it close to where you want it to be. I need another edge here to serve as the outer edge of the third hairpiece. Let's go all out and add a few more edge loops. These will allow us to add the wavy pattern later. These front wavy hair pieces might be tricky to organize, but we'll worry about that later. Here's something cool that you may not know about edge sliding. Normally when edge sliding, you can only move in along an edge, but we can actually slide outside the bounds of the starting point. Let me zoom in here. Initiate your edge slide along the edges that you want, then hit C or hold Alt to disable clamping. Now you can slide out along this edge beyond the original position of the vertex, which is pretty cool. The goal here is to shape this front edge so that everything flows. This hairstyle has these large wavy parts, so let's start creating them by shaping the bottom edge. Shift select the vertices that will be the middle of the hair strands, and turn off the visibility of the body for now. Move these 3 vertices down on the Z-axis. Select these upper 3 vertices and move them further up on the Z-axis. Reselect the lower 3 vertices, switch into wireframe view, and scale towards the origin while locking the Z-axis. The 2 side spikes seem a little close to the center, so select them and scale out on the X-axis. Move them forward on the Y-axis a bit as well. Get these upper vertices positioned to make sure the subdivided mesh looks good. When the bottom is in a good place, we can start giving the hair pieces some shape. Shift select these 3 vertices. In side view, move these vertices to about here. Move this vertex back on the Y-axis about as far as the others. Move these 2 vertices back, kinda in line with these. We want to create a roundish shape here. Now just work your way around doing the same for the rest of the hair. Attempt to create smooth transitions between the old and new shapes. This piece of hair looks a little different than the other two. It took me a bit to discover the issue, but I had an extra edge in here by accident. Yours probably won't look like this. This weird shape was continuing to confuse me for a while, so I figured I'd move on and come back. Shape this hair strand pretty much just like the other ones. Adjust the position of vertices to shape the hair how you want. This is when I finally spotted that extra edge. With Edge Select active, I selected the extra edge and deleted it. Much better. Now continue shaping. I have a question for those of you who have made it this far. I'm not sure what would be most helpful during these parts of small shaping adjustments. Do you guys prefer that I'm like, move this vertex up a tiny bit, and now move this one a little over, or is silence with just video better? Let me know. I found scaling towards and away from the object origin to be useful while shaping this front piece. This is the edge between the two hair pieces, so try to get it lined up where you want that crease to be. Here's something that you don't get to do too often. You can edge slide multiple vertices at once when the situation calls for it. We'll cut these two front hair pieces apart a little later, but they're fine for now. Here's another double edge slide. I think it'll be easier to work with if we have the creases set up, so let's do that real quick. Switch to Edge Select. On the subdivision modifier, turn off Optimal Display and Edit Mode Display. Select all the edges where you want creases, basically in between every hair strand. Hit Ctrl E and choose Mark Sharp. It took me a little bit to decide how I wanted to divide these hair pieces. If you select this edge and hit V, it will rip the edge apart. And now we can separate these two hair pieces. We don't need them too far apart to be visually separate. Now we can turn back on the edit mode visibility of the subdivision modifier and shape these hair pieces better. To round out this edge, select these two vertices in this order and merge at last. Both of these hair pieces need a bit of work. It's never too late to go back and move things that you've already positioned. Keep adjusting everything until you like it. The tip of this hairpiece needs some rearranging. Grab this vertex and move it up. Move this vertex way forward. And then smooth out this edge. Pull in this vertex to create the spiked appearance the other hairpieces have. Select all and merge by distance to make sure that there aren't any doubles. If you look at a reference picture, these hair strands are very wavy, so let's attempt to recreate that. Add an edge loop here with Ctrl R. Shift select the tips of this new loop and scale down. Manually adjust anything that seems out of place, and then as always, continue to fine tune your hair shape. This looks about as good as we're going to get without more geometry, so archive this object and let's apply our subdivision modifier. Since our subdivision modifier is in the second position, and we want our finished model to appear how it looks now, we need to apply the mirror modifier first and then the subdivision modifier second. However, don't apply the edge split modifier. Now let's box select and delete half of the object and add another mirror modifier. Make sure the mirror modifier is in the first position, although it probably wouldn't make much difference in this situation. And now we've got a bunch of geometry to work with for the finishing touches. The main thing I want to do is round out each of these hair pieces. Choose a hairpiece and select the lower vertices on each side. Go into top view and move these vertices in a direction to round out this pointiness. And then lower them on the Z-axis to round out the bottom. If you prefer, you can move these vertices individually, but I don't think it's necessary. Now just move through making adjustments until all these hair pieces appear round. When you feel that looks good, head to the bottom inside spiky shapes. I'm going to do something that I tried to avoid while doing a tutorial, just because it's a little more difficult to replicate. We're going to freehand position these vertices on all three axes at once. When you grab a vertex, it'll stay locked on the current view's Z-axis, so the perceptual depth of the vertex won't change. By carefully positioning the camera, you can adjust a vertex to exactly where you want it pretty easily. When I make a model for fun, I use the camera positioning quite frequently, so it's good to get used to doing. So let's try to use camera positioning in order to round out these bottom spikes. Now that we've got our overall shape figured out, let's start filling in the inside. Alt select the outer edge. You may need to hold shift while alt selecting to get multiple parts of the edge. When it's all selected, hit Ctrl E and choose Mark Sharp. Now let's create some caps for these spikes. Select this vertex and extrude an edge, enable clipping, and move it to the mirror line on the X-axis. Select these vertices and create a face with F. Select this vertex and move it back on the Y-axis. Shift select this vertex and hit J to create an edge. Fill in the rest of these spikes the same way. Hit K to use the knife tool and cut the face in half, and then use J to divide it. You could also subdivide this top edge and then use J, or use the knife tool for it all. There are just so many different ways to do anything. I love Blender. I have two vertices here that are very close together and could probably just be one vertex, so I'm going to select them both and merge with M. Now shift select all of these vertices and fill in one massive face. Use the knife tool to divide up this face into a bunch of faces. Then use J to do the small final faces. Just turn all these faces into quads and tris. edge slide to round out this edge. And then use camera positioning to smooth out the edge again. One of the last main things to do is make interior faces for this front hairpiece. While clipping is enabled on the mirror line, this vertex will be stuck at the mirror line. So disable clipping, and now extrude out an edge. Keep extruding out edges. Match the vertex count and placement with this line. Try to go for a shape like this. Turn on proportional editing, enable connected only, and choose sharp fall off. Grab this vertex and move it back on the Y-axis. Scroll the middle mouse wheel to adjust the fall off. Now fill in these faces. With this vertex selected, go into wireframe mode and turn off proportional editing. Continue extruding out edges, attempt to match them up closely with this edge again. Adding a little variation might give it some personality. If you want to reduce your poly count slightly, you can extrude to every other vertex and connect up the faces with tries later. It's an interior face that you won't really see much, so you can safely reduce geometry here. Select all these new vertices and move them back. Fill in these faces. This is how you fill in the faces if you did the every other thing. Adjust the Y position of these vertices to smooth this edge. Select these 4 vertices and make a face. And then fill in this entire opening. Use the knife tool and J to divide this face up. Adjust the positioning of this edge to create a curve. Select all and shade smooth. Now let's fill in this big final opening. Alt select this inner edge loop and shift select these final few vertices. Go into wireframe view and make sure none of these mirror line vertices are selected that shouldn't be. Use circle deselect by hitting C and holding shift while selecting. Make sure this vertex and this vertex are still selected. Extrude with E and scale by 0. Hit M and merge by distance. Position this vertex somewhere around here. And turn the body back on. If we go into this collection, we can turn the ear visibility off. And this hair looks pretty good. There might be a few more things that we want to change. These edges could be marked as sharp. This edge doesn't quite line up with our head, so do some edge sliding to more closely match it. Make sure to fix any sort of clipping. I want to change how the inside looks here. So select these 2 vertices and create an edge with F. Use F3 to search for subdivide and increase the cuts to 2. Mark this new edge as sharp. Go into face select and delete these faces, as well as these 2. I changed my mind on how many faces I wanted, and merged these two vertices at center. And now fill the faces back in. And this is the basic wavy hair shape all done, so now you can make any final adjustments, add or remove geometry, whatever you want. Thank you for watching. I hope you found it useful. If you enjoyed, leave us a like, subscribe, and let us know what sort of projects you'd like to see us make. If you'd like to help our channel grow, share the video. This hairstyle, as well as others, are available from our Patreon. Thanks again, stay safe, I love you all, goodbye.